way we consume and share news today, it is largely rooted in social media outlets, a reason why it's crucial to look at what's being discussed online. From the hottest issues to trends and our annual wrap-up, honestly, for our daily social media minute, we're joined by Erica.
Good morning.
Good morning. Dressed appropriately. Dressed like Erica this morning.
Oh,
do you know that we inadvertently
I'm
somehow
nice and warm.
match to the
Yes.
inside of your hoodie? Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you think kimchi is getting a brand new reputation? People like it a lot more than, I don't know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
1,000%.
Okay, we're all on the same page. We're all caught
Yeah.
up. We talked about Kimchi Day just a few weeks ago, I believe. And now there is an event celebrating, well, kimchi overall.
Yeah. So there was an event celebrating the Korean staple dish, kimchi. It was held for the first time at the U.S. Library of Congress. The event was called the Kimchi Day Ceremony, and it highlighted the traditional fermented vegetable dish. Democrat Judy Chu, who is presently the chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, called for a federal designation of Kimchi Day to recognize Korean Americans' contributions to American society. So a federal designation of Kimchi Day could mean, if it's handled by the end of this year, that means America could have an official Kimchi Day. How crazy is that?
Really hard for me to process. I think I just grew up in different times and I just never saw that this could be an option. I think I was asking for just a little bit more representation on TV screen, something small.
Growing up abroad since I was a kid, not always, but sometimes my mom would pack me a Korean style lunch and I used to be so ashamed of my lunch.
Same.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I grew up in the state of California, arguably a state that has a significant Korean population. But I think I too had a big identity crisis with that.
Yeah, and no matter how delicious whatever she packed in my lunch was, and she's a great cook. So every time I opened it, it's pungent. It's there's a lot of garlic and other ingredients in there. So, but anyways, this is a momentous occasion, I feel, even if the federal designation never takes place.
Does anyone else find, because we're streaming images of what this celebration of the U.S. Library of Congress looked like, and those packaged kimchi on the well-decorated tables, it looks kind of funny, huh?
Right. So there's another Democratic Congresswoman, her name is Carolyn Maloney, who, along with 11 other legislators, submitted a resolution back in July earlier this year, seeking a Kimchi Day designation. And she said that the Korean staple has been a part of the country's long history, dating back to the Three Kingdoms era. Every time somebody, who holds an important position says something like that, it just, it reinforces the fact that kimchi belongs to, is such an important part of Korean history and culture.
That's right. So it is so much more than just a staple side dish, is it not? And there must be a reason why it's a representative dish. We've chosen to have an entire day around it. Now, it feels like we're running out of time to make Kimchi Day official.
Yeah, the resolution is going to be scrapped if it is not handled by the year's end. Well, the year's end is not that far off, so I guess we'll have to see.
Okay.
Now, the U.S. states of Virginia, Maryland, New York, and California, as well as Washington, D.C., have already designated November 22nd as a day to celebrate the Korean dish.
So they want to make it a federal designation.
That's right.
We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Let's move on to our second story of the day. Now, this is unprecedented, right? North Korean state media introducing Captain Son and covering the World Cup and how well South Korea did.
Yeah, sort of, I
and
guess.
then lost.
And then lost. They didn't air the other games.
Interesting.
They didn't air the South Korea-Ghana game or the South Korea-Portugal game. They chose to only broadcast the South Korea-Brazil game, which South Korea lost. But anyways, North Korea's Joseon Jungang TV has, for the first time ever, officially introduced Son Heung-min as the captain of the South Korean national soccer team. So the state broadcast broadcaster belatedly televised the South Korea-Brazil game just last night. And ahead of the game, the commentator introduced the entire Korean squad, mentioning each of the players' names.
With their jersey numbers?
Yes, and their positions.
Okay.
The moment where Son Heung-min shakes hands with Brazilian team captain Thiago Silva was also aired. Nothing was blurred out. Even the ad boards in the background, Hyundai Motors, they kept it.
This is, you might be asking, why wouldn't they? We're pointing to it because it's very, very unusual. In fact, you said it's the first time ever they aired such images.
That's right. It's extremely unusual for North Korea to broadcast South Korean sports matches or even shed light on South Korean sports players. Until now, North Korea's only mentioned Son Heung-min once, and this was back in September of 2012.
10 years ago?
Yeah, when his then football team in Germany, Hamburg, faced the team Dortmund. And even then, the state TV only referred to Son Heung-min as simply Son instead of his full name. Now, during yesterday's broadcast, the state TV introduced the career and performance of Son Heung-min and some other Korean players, including Hwang Hee-chan, from a relatively neutral standpoint.
Okay, relatively neutral being a key word, but for North Korea, big changes.
Yes.
What did the state media have to say about then Captain Son Heung-min himself?
Just details, how he's the captain of the South Korean national team, that he is 30 years old, 183 centimeters tall.
Introducing him for the first time, clearly.
Yeah, it also mentioned that he has participated in 107 international matches and that his first international appearance was back in 2010. It also mentioned how Son has participated in 9 World Cup related matches and has scored 3 goals in those games. Now, the North Korean state TV has been able to record and broadcast the 2022 Qatar World Cup game by acquiring the rights to broadcast the South Korean games, which was transferred over to FIFA by 3 South Korean terrestrial broadcasters, including KBS, MBC, and SBS.
Okay, that's really interesting. This is unprecedented. This is why we're talking about such gross detail.
And the entire game, the 100-minute match, was almost unedited. Like I said, even the ads were kept intact.
Now, as for asking why now, that's a fantastic question. Experts will take it apart and then we'll have details. But for now, that unprecedented move has us talking about it first thing in the morning.
Yep. I mean, maybe they thought, they didn't progress to the semifinals anyway, so
this might be the game we should play.
So, there's no problem broadcasting it. So who knows?
Who knows with the Hermit Kingdom.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our final buzzword of the day. So we continue to take a look at Time Magazine's list. Now, this might be one of the more important ones. Time's 2022 Person of the Year. I clearly can't say 2022. How am I going to say 2023? All right. So President Volodymyr Zelensky and the Spirit of Ukraine together has been selected as a Person of the Year.
Yeah, 2022 Person of the Year. The award goes to an event or a person. It could be not just one particular person, but a collective group of people.
The Me Too
as
movement,
well.
Black Lives Matter, I think they all had some spotlight.
Yeah. So these people or a person or an event which is deemed to have had the most influence on global events over the past 12 months gets this award. Time magazine editor said the decision was the most clear-cut in recent memory. It said, quote, Zelensky's success as a wartime leader has relied on the fact that courage is contagious. Now, you mentioned earlier that Zelensky and the Spirit of Ukraine was named Time's 2022 Person of the Year. By the Spirit of Ukraine, we're referring to Ukrainians generally around the world, including many who fought behind the scenes. And this includes people like Yevgen Klopotenko, who was a chef who provided thousands of free meals to Ukrainians. And there was also a medic who was highlighted during the war, Yulia Payevska, who was captured and then released after 3 months in Russian captivity. The magazine said Mr. Zelensky had inspired Ukrainians and was recognized internationally for his courage in resisting the Russian invasion.
Absolutely. I think it's very interesting that they didn't just name Volodymyr Zelensky. They included the Spirit of Ukraine. That could be extended to all corners of the world, really, right?
Remember the first time we actually talked about the war breaking out? Yeah, it was February 24th, was it? That was the date. And the war is still going on.
I think, for weeks on end, most of us were in disbelief because
that's right.
The assumption was it would be over.
We talked about the fact that tens of thousands of Russian troops were mobilizing along the border, but then we still didn't believe it.
Until the very last second that it wouldn't happen.
Yes.
All right. So the war is still very much going on, but even in the midst of it, we wanted to highlight this, Zelensky's moment and the spirit of Ukraine. Just to look at the competition this year for Time Magazine's Person of the Year, who are the other finalists?
Well, other finalists this year included protesters in Iran, Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, British trauma surgeon David Knott, who actually went into Ukraine to help the injured during the war, was also one of the several people who feature on the magazine's cover. So it's Zelensky, his face at the center, surrounded by, smaller faces.
I see.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at previous winners, too. Elon Musk was last year's winner when Tesla became the most valuable car maker in the world. It felt like a big moment for EV, going environmentally friendly, the future of automobiles. Was he listed as a finalist this year as well?
In fact, he was. I think he made headlines this year for many other reasons.
Twitter, that's a key word, folks.
That's right. Okay. Now, the Time Magazine tradition began in 1927, so that is a long history. Yeah. Although, get this, back then, it was called Man of the Year, not Person of the Year.
I'm glad we made the adjustments.
Other previous winners over the past decade include, Elon Musk last year, back in 2020, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. 2019, Person of the Year was Greta Thunberg.
But the cover did have not just Greta Thunberg, but other people who are part of the movement. Right?
Not to tarnish the list, former dictator of Germany, Adolf Hitler, was Person of the Year back in 1938. And Russian President Vladimir Putin was Man of the Year or Person of the Year in 2007.
See, it's about influence. Positive or negative. It's not just
making
about
impacts.
Exactly. And it summarizes a year, right?
Correct.
So there you can manage what that list exactly entails. Thank you so much, Erica.
Pleasure.
I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.